the conversation about canceling the contract is a distraction from the problem that we have in Puerto Rico. The energy system is not reliable. People, the average person out there, does not care what laws were done here, who the regulator is. They want to go home, turn on the light switch, and have power. So when you start talking about whether you cancel the contract or not, it's a politically expedient, convenient conversation that doesn't get to the result of what you're trying to achieve, which is, and what I've said before is, we can have the conversation about canceling the contract. Josue said this, anyone could not honor a contract. Anyone could cancel a contract, but there are consequences to it. And whether or not the terms of canceling the contract are met is going to end up being a legal matter. And it will be litigated, and there will be costs. And the result of that could be years of litigation. And go back to the first issue, which was people don't want more of that. They want the lights to be turned on. So going back to what Josue said, what is going to, if you cancel the contract, what is the next step? What are you going to do? What is the answer? Are you going to get another contractor? Good luck. Because this conversation, you have to get another contractor who's willing to sign another contract that could be canceled. You have to get another contractor who's willing to come here and say, oh, I want to get into that. I want to get into whether someone's going to cancel my contract politically. I want to get into whether or not they're going to fund a rate case to support the operations, which we know is underfunded, because that is politicized. We want to go back to PREPA. Okay, Josue just said this. What is the reason for PREPA's failure? Politicization. The government intervening in the decisions to maintain the system. Does anyone believe that that politicization has disappeared? Do we believe, based on the conversation that is happening today in the public discourse, that it's not being politicized again? So you're going to go back to that. So that's really the conversation is. What it should be about is, why are we where we are? There's $17 billion in federal funds. We've only spent $1. Okay, why? Don't look backwards. How do we move forwards? How do we get that done? Everyone has a role in that. Federal government has a role in slowing it down. We have a role in doing it. PREPA has a role in doing it. Core 3 has a role in doing it. P3 has a role. PREP has a role. Everyone has a role. So the point is, how do we succeed from where we are right now and get to a place where people can turn on their lights and it's going to be working? On a matter of resources, again, $17 billion is sitting there. How do we get that to move? Do we have enough money to fund the operator? How do we raise more money to fund the operator if we don't? Or if we do, how do we make sure those monies are used most efficiently? We're in bankruptcy. As the Secretary said, we're in bankruptcy because government, other people intervened to bankrupt the enterprise in a spectacular fashion with $10 billion in debt. In a spectacular fashion, right? Not slightly in debt, $10 billion in debt. And the reason we are in bankruptcy is because the board is saying that we cannot afford to pay back the $10 billion and maintain a system that is resilient and maintain a system that is going to work. We could be out of bankruptcy tomorrow. It costs $10 billion. So we're still in bankruptcy. And we'll stay there until we are comfortable that we can either reach a consensual agreement that is affordable so that we can pay for a system and operate the system. We don't want to get out of bankruptcy and agree to a debt burden that will not allow for the system to maintain itself, both on the operations side and the capital side. So I just submit that the conversation about cancel contract, don't cancel contract, it's not going to happen in any case immediately. and it's not really going to solve the problem. We've been in conversations, we just had a meeting today on what is the plan to stabilize the system in the short term. PREB put out a request for a plan. That plan is out there, needs work. We need to know how much money it costs. We need to know what those things are. And everyone here, many of the people on this panel on the government side are in those meetings every day, every time we meet, which is often, trying to solve the problem.
Dos preguntas bastante particulares con el proceso de quiebra. Usted señala que necesitamos salir del proceso de quiebra. Lo cierto es que llevamos 2 años y medio desde la cancelación de la Oversight de 2019. Hemos gastado 1.5 millones en el equipo de mediación con el objetivo de que salgamos de la quiebra. Y todavía ustedes y los bonistas opositores continúan en lados opuestos con una brecha increíble. Los números que se han sacado en torno a la propuesta y el llamado cargo legado ha hecho sonar las alarmas en Puerto Rico, independientemente de la apuesta agresiva de recorte que han hecho ustedes. ¿Realmente vale la pena continuar en el proceso de mediación e intentar resolver esto? ¿O por el contrario, es hora de invocar el mecanismo de cram down, ponerle un final al proceso de quiebra de forma tal que el tema de la reconstrucción continúe adelante, que el tema de que haya jugadores privados entrando activamente al mercado eléctrico se despeje ese elemento o no? ¿Cuán real es que vamos a salir y vamos a salir sin pagar más de lo que ya ustedes han intentado?
Yeah, it's a question that is not under the control of the board. Okay, it is in the federal court, and right now we are in mediation. The court has extended the mediation, and it is our obligation to be in mediation and negotiate in good faith. And that is what we're doing. But what I said before is what I can say, which is the reason we are still in mediation and the reason we are still in the bankruptcy court is because our plan, which is an 80% reduction in the debt, is not sufficient to reach a consensual deal. I know there are other people on this panel who have plans and ideas of how you can get out of the bankruptcy court. I welcome them to show us, because no one want to get out of it quicker than we do. But we're not going to do it and compromise the ability of the energy company to survive and actually thrive and have enough money to pay for the maintenance and the capital that it needs. So it's not under our control to getting out of bankruptcy. There are other parties, and it requires a consensual deal, and we're not there.
En paralelo, usted indicó hace unos días también que la Junta iba a tomar un rol más proactivo. Si hay algo que quizás queda a la luz, y ya nos quedan como 7 minutos, se lo prometo, porque quiero cumplir con el horario que nos dieron los coordinadores del evento. La organización de la que usted es parte, en el 2017 intentó tomar control de la Autoridad de Energía Eléctrica. En aquel momento, la Junta y el gobierno libraron una batalla. El gobierno convenció a la jueza Swain de que tendrían toda la capacidad para acometer la reconstrucción de la red y que podían mantener el control. Ahora ustedes plantean que van a asumir un rol más activo. Cuando yo les veo aquí a todos y pienso en la infinidad de información que se ha publicado, es claro que hay infinidad de actores, todos interactuando de una u otra forma o con uno u otro grado sobre la red eléctrica, sobre las infraestructuras que tienen a su cargo para energizar el país. ¿Qué concretamente va a hacer la Junta? ¿Qué es lo que ustedes pretenden hacer cuando hicieron esta declaración de que van a jugar un rol más proactivo para asegurar que las cosas se muevan? Y, ingeniero Lavoy, no le he olvidado, tengo una pregunta para usted, por si acaso. ¿Qué van a hacer? ¿Qué va a hacer la Junta, concretamente?
So we've already started. And we started with our first meeting in August. We've had many meetings since then. I don't believe in having just meetings, right? The reason we are where we are, I think, there's 3 main reasons. And below that, there's a lot of other things below that. But it's leadership, prioritization, and execution. And you need to have all of those. I've worked on very large projects that no one thought could get done, and that have gotten done faster and for less time than anyone thought, right? But it's really complicated, and everyone has to work together. There are reasons that the federal funding has not moved. It is not necessarily the incompetence of any individual. There are bureaucratic hurdles. The money didn't start till 2022. There are limitations or requirements that I have not seen in other places that make it very difficult. But there's what you have to do, and what we've been doing, sitting in the room, working on it, problem by problem, obstacle by obstacle, and what's the challenge, how do we fix it, and use all the resources that we have. And I think we are making progress. It revolves all of us constantly paying attention. Principles in the room. He was in the room today, you were in the room today. There's people at this table who have been, and we're sitting there and working through them. You have to continue that. It's not going, and when we hit a roadblock, there might be something that is out of our control. There are things you order that take 3 years to deliver, take 4 years to deliver. There are obstacles at the federal level regarding environmental reviews that under normal processes would take 2 to 3 years. We don't have 2 to 3 years. For me, it's unacceptable for something to take 2 years. If you want to tell us how we can do something efficiently and comply with environmental rules, it doesn't take 2 years to tell us that. You should be able to tell us that in a short amount of time, right? The vegetation management is a great example, right? These are right-of-ways. These right-of-ways are owned by PREPA. We are not putting new lines in. We should be able to clear them. And there are rules as to us not being able to clear them. So we're having the conversation, how can we expedite that? How can we make it go faster? There are limits to the power and authority that everyone here has. They all have power and authority within their realms, and there are some limits. And those limits go all the way up to Washington. And we're running those challenges all the way up. I believe we'll have, right? Well, whoever is the next governor, we're gonna have to work with that. Whoever is the next president of the United States, we're gonna have to live with that. But the monies are allocated. The focused attention is there. Some of the people here are gonna change, and we can't lose traction. We have to not focus on these political challenges that we have, or the political fights that we have, or whether the law says this. The focus has to be, number one, do we have a reliable system? Number one, do we have a reliable system? The other things are nice, but they don't. We're focused on economic development now, right? You can't even, the reason we're focused on this now is because you can't have economic development if you don't have a system that is reliable. It's the message that we're sending to the rest of the world is that the system is not reliable, that we have outages. And it's not just about the operators that we're talking about. Last couple of weeks, we had outages of hundreds of thousands of people. Had nothing related to transmission. It was lack of generation capacity. Very simple. We have to fix that. We're going to eliminate that operator too, and then what are we going to have, right? These are real conversations that we have. But that's the conversations I don't think, in the effort to say that everything is going well, we don't talk about the problems and the things that are not moving, because everyone wants to say things are going fine, we're making progress. They're not fine, and people know that, and people feel it. And we should acknowledge that and then work together to fix it. And that's the attention that we're focusing on it now, because you can't go anywhere else unless you do that first.